Hi again then guys, and welcome to another look back to the world of Forza Motorsport 2, in particular to the sibling, if you will, the more impressive sibling actually to another aftermarket tuner car that we've already looked at, one of the Veilside Supras, and both of these Supras alongside as well the AB Flug or AB Flug Supra as well. They're incredibly quick cars, huge power, huge performance, and the pricing, although high, isn't actually ridiculous, especially compared to how good they actually are. Plus, for such powerful cars, they're actually surprisingly beginner friendly, or at least they have been so far. So what about this one? Because this version of the Veilside Supra Fortune, as it's called, is the 99 version, instead of the one that we already talked about, which is the 03. Now, personally, I think that both of these cars have very kind of Marmite styling. They're not conventionally pretty cars. There are certainly better looking Supras out there, even aftermarket ones, for instance. Personally, I would say that the Charge Speed Supra is one of the best looking aftermarket builds I've seen. I don't think that one though was built by a specific tuning house, but I may be wrong there. This one though certainly looks different to the rest of the crowd. Both of them have that very strange back window, which looks borderline pickup truck in nature, which is a little bit weird. But what isn't weird is the spec, because this car is an absolute beast. In fact, even in its untuned, or at least untuned by you as the player, form, it's already one of the most powerful cars in the game. You're looking at 1,051 horsepower out of this thing, and a massive 774 pound-feet of torque. But what makes it even better is that the existing version that we already talked about, the 03 Fortune Supra, already wasn't that heavy. It weighed 1,506 kilos. This one is even lighter as well as being more powerful at 1,479. That is really good. And consequently, the horsepower per tonne is actually one of the highest of any non-race car in the game, and that's before you've even done anything to it. And you can make this car even lighter. You can upgrade the tyres, the brakes, the suspension. You can even put a better wing on it if you wanted to, and turn it into kind of an over-the-top track car. But even before you do any of that, you're looking at 711 horsepower per tonne. That is incredibly high. The Veyron has about 520 horsepower per tonne. That is not even close to this car. Now, of course, the Veyron is much more of a production spec machine. It's got more luxury, it's all-wheel drive, so of course it has a number of disadvantages working against it as far as weight goes, but still, it's an interesting comparison to be made. And anyone who's played Forza 2 and driven most, if not all of the cars in the game, will probably already be aware of this car. It's kind of a monster as far as Forza 2 goes, and I think it's a real shame that these extremely fast aftermarket Supras were just left behind in the later Forza games, because of course we still had some aftermarket cars. Even as recently as, say, Forza 4, you could say we had the aftermarket unicorns, a couple after that, but not so much. On Forza 2, though, there's such a strong offering of these aftermarket cars, and so many of them are rapid. The Hennessy Venom, the Veilside Supras, the AB Flug Supra, they're incredibly quick machines, hugely powerful, and the funniest thing of all, when it comes to this car compared to the normal one, or, well, the normal one being the 03 with 860 horsepower, and if that's normal in comparison, it kind of speaks to how crazy this one is. They both cost exactly the same, or at least the in-game value is exactly the same, 247,000 credits, which is really good on both counts, I would say. Now, as far as which one to get, or which one to use, it's fairly obvious. If you can have more power, why not? So of course this is the fastest of the two. It's one of the quickest cars in the game. It might actually be the quickest overall aftermarket tuner car. I'm not sure exactly how it compares to the Hennessy Viper Venom in terms of top speed. I think it might be better though, because the Hennessy has incredibly quick acceleration, but top speed, if I recall correctly, isn't quite as high. But either way, they're both incredibly quick. And this one or the 03 are both really, really strong aftermarket cars. Now, of course, to get the best out of a car like this, you need to use it on the right track. So circuits such as Maciel, for instance, or pretty much any track with a super long straight, New York as well is a perfect example. That is where you can really get a ton of use out of a car like this. And it's unfortunate as well that we didn't have it carried over to the later games, because imagine this car going around La Sarthe, the Le Mans, as it's known. That would be incredible. It's an amazing car for that. It's perfect for it. It'd be great for drag racing, especially for pulls as well, because back then you can't convert it to all-wheel drive, but you can still put the power down very efficiently. It's an incredible performance car, definitely one that's worth checking out, that's for sure, and it's kind of the definition of a unicorn in the Forza 2 world. If this car had have continued later on in, say, Forza 3 or Forza 4, it would have most definitely been one of those cars that you had to unlock. It's just a shame that, like so many of the other cars that we're looking at in these older Forza games, they just didn't bother to keep them in the game. And that really is a shame, because these Hennessy's, these AB Flugs, or AB Flugs, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, the Veilsides, the Ariam Mayas, the Tommy Kyras, they're such cool cars, and each of them are so different, but also so useful. They're so different to each other. The Tommy Kyra R Skyline is nothing like this Veilside Supra, and yet you can have so much fun and get so much use out of both of them. And even as far as the category goes, this one isn't quite as high as you might think. You might conclude, given the massive performance, that it would be like the Speed 12 and the Chrysler ME412 in the ultimate class of 999, but it's actually not. It's a lot more usable than that, ironically. It's only 916 PI in the S category, so you can do a ton to it, even in S-Class, although, not too surprisingly, if you do everything to it, you can very easily bump it up into the ultimate category. So it's definitely worth a look if you do go back to play Forza 2, one of the quickest cars in the game, and one of the quickest variations of the Supra to actually be featured in any game. It's extremely good in that regard. So overall, that's it for this pick. Certainly a car that's worth more attention, and I'll see you guys next time. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.